All right, Shalom. There's the brother Nahalia from the GMS Orlando camp. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakar Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasher Allah, and a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath, who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. Yahweh is the name of the one they ignorantly call God. Yahweh Shai is the name of the one they ignorantly call Jesus. Bahashem is in the name, Rakah is spirit, Kodash is holy, Akyam is brothers, Akwath is sisters. Shalom means peace, and Yasher Allah is Israel in ancient Paleo Hebrew. All right, now I want to go into a lesson through the spirit on the system of fractional reserve banking, and how it relates to the scriptures, because ultimately it's unrighteous deeds, it's unrighteous dealings. All right, and this is why ultimately the kingdom is going to be translated from Esau to Jacob. All right, so before I start this video that you see right here this is a long time ago, 11 years ago, and it's from Godfrey Bloom. I want to grab this precept first. So we're going to go to Ecclesiasticus, the 10th chapter, and I'm going to grab the 8th verse. All right, so this is Ecclesiasticus 10:8, and it reads, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. All right, so let's start. Lord willing, this be edifying.
For the EFT, Mr. Bloom has 2 minutes.
Commissioner, Mr. President, I rise again, I'm afraid, to make the same old hoary speech that I've been making here for several years, and that is, it is my opinion that you do not really understand the concept of banking. All the banks are broke. Bank Santander, Deutsche Bank, Royal Bank of Scotland, they're all broke. And why are they broke? It isn't an act of God. It isn't some sort of tsunami. They're broke because we have a system called fractional reserve banking, which means that banks can lend money that they don't actually have. It's a criminal scandal, and it's been going on for too long. To add to that problem, you have moral hazard, a very significant moral hazard from the political sphere. And most of the problem starts in politics and central banks, which are part of the same political system. We have counterfeiting, sometimes called quantitative easing, but counterfeiting by any other name. The artificial printing of money, which if any ordinary person did, they'd go to prison for a very long time. And yet governments and central banks do it all the time. Central banks repress the amount of interest that rates are, so we don't have the real cost of money. And yet we blame the real retail banks for manipulating LIBOR. The sheer effrontery of this is quite astonishing. It's central banks that manipulate interest rates, Commissioner. And plus, underneath all this, we talk loosely, in a rather cavalier fashion, do we not, about deposit guarantees. So when banks go broke through their own incompetence and chicanery, the taxpayer picks up the tab. It's theft from the taxpayer. And until we start sending bankers, and I include central bankers and politicians, to prison for this outrage, it will continue.
All right, so I wanted to play the entire clip before we begin to go into it through the spirit. All right, because the law tells us not to deal with diverse weights, all right, to deal with just weights and just balances. And we live in a system where Esau has created a fiat system where he's able to steal from other nations, including his own people. All right, so let's go to the definition of fractional reserve banking first. All right, so this is, what is fractional reserve banking? It says fractional reserve banking is a system in which only a fraction of bank deposits are required to be available for withdrawal. Banks only need to keep a specific amount of cash on hand and create loans from the money you deposit. Fractional reserves work to expand the economy by freeing capital for lending. All right, so basically, Godfrey Bloom was going into the fact that through fractional reserve banking, they're printing money that they don't have. All right, they're spending money that they don't have. So if you put $10 in the bank, for instance, they may only be required to keep $1, but they can loan the rest of your $9 out. This is why if you try to go and withdraw a large sum of money, they have trouble doing it because they're not required to keep all of your money in these banks. And really, when you look at the banking system, it was set up that way to steal from people. You know, they presented people with this idea that your money will be safer in the bank. But really, what they're doing is they're using your money to create a profit for themselves concerning the banks. All right, so let's go to the law, statutes, and commandments first and foremost. All right, so this is Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 35. And it reads, "Ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment, in meat yard, in weight, or in measure. Just balances, just weights, a just ephah, and a just hin shall ye have. I am the Lord your God, which brought you out of the land of Egypt." All right, so when we go to balances, all right, the Hebrew word for balances is mazan, all right, or mazayan, and it says scales, balances, pairs of scales, balances. All right, because really money is supposed to be resources, silver, gold. All right, when you deal with those things, that's money. You know, like Melvin said on Baby Boy, guns and butter, you know, shit that appreciates with value. All right, that's what money actually is, though. All right, this is Genesis 13 and 1. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him into the south. And Abram was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold. All right, not fiat currency. Right now, what people hold right now is a debt note. It's not actual money. All right, and Esau's created a system like this in which he's able to rob uh, he's basically able to rob people. I would say other people, but at this point, he's robbing his own people with this same system. And this is why you have a guy like Godfrey Bloom 11 years ago talking about the corruption of the system and how it's set up, because it's not supposed to be like this. And this is why ultimately Esau is going to be removed from power, because he's not meant to rule. All right. He's actually a servant. All right. Let's go here. And he doesn't belong in rulership. And you can tell by the system. All right. It's funded by greed. That's the god of this world. The driving force of this world is greed. All right, so this is Slakia. Let me go to Proverbs 19. And we're going to jump down to verse 10. And it reads, "Delight is not seemly." Slakia. This is Proverbs chapter 19 and verse 10. And it reads, "Delight is not seemly for a fool, much less for a servant to have rule over princes." And as a result, you have a system like this, all right, because the person who's in rulership is not fit to rule. He's not ruling with equity, all right, he's ruling through greed and corruption. And this is why you have the world that we live in. All right, one thing Godfrey Bloom said was that this didn't happen as an act of God. Well, it did, but it was Esau's greed that created a system, all right, where people are robbed and spoiled. Now, Proverbs 30, I'm going to jump down to the point at verse 21. It reads, "For 3 things the earth is disquieted, and for 4 which it cannot bear. For a servant when he reigneth, and a fool when he is filled with meat." And these are for these things, all right, one of them, the chief one, if you will, is a servant when he reigneth, all right, because Esau is a servant. He's not meant to rule, all right, and we know, let's go here. It's Ecclesiastes 10 and 6. "Folly is set in great dignity, and the rich is sit in low place. I have seen servants upon horses, and princes walking as servants upon the earth." All right, and the system shows you who's in rulership. All right, Esau has created a system in which he's able to rob people, and it should not be so. And that's why he's going to be removed out of power. All right, they try to make this sob story about how the problems in the world are just natural occurrences. No, it's a product of the rulership. This is why the middle class, if you will, in Babylon the Great, which is America, is starting to be destroyed. All right. If you want to argue that it exists, because really there is no middle class at this point. Everything is held up by debt. And that's a product of fractional reserve banking. When you have fractional reserve banking, everybody is just passing debt along. They're passing the debt from one person to another. And this is why this system is headed for destruction. You know, hypothetically speaking, if the Lord didn't intervene, as the scripture said, there will be no flesh left to save. Because the system set up like this only has one end. Fiat currency has a 100% failure rate. All right. Let's get that real quick. All right, so this is just a quick side note. This is jennyfoundation.org. It says Fiat Currency Graveyard, a history of monetary folly. All right, and as the scriptures say, folly is set in great dignity. All right, it says living in denial about the economy. I still see many Americans living in denial about the fate of the USD, even when they know that the past performance is not a guarantee of future performance. They still say things like, yes, the 2008 bailouts were bad, but our country has stabilized and will be okay. No, the economy will not be okay, and the chart below illustrates why. All right, it says money printing is wealth theft. As the chart below illustrates, the money printing in the US since 1900 has destroyed 98% of the USD's value. But what happens to the value of the USD when the money supply shoots up like a missile, as has occurred since 2008? It loses even more value and will eventually and inevitably collapse, along with the value of every asset that is denominated in USD. This has happened many times in recent and not so recent history. And when it happens, the currency is usually killed and buried in the fiat currency graveyard. And this is why the Lord told us to have just weights and just balances. All right, because eventually when you start like this is how you have to finish. All right, and this is why this system is headed for a fall. All right, and the Lord is using this, all right, to bring about judgment. All right, now I want to go to this video really quick from Tucker Carlson with Representative Thomas Massey. All right, now this is I got about, I want to say maybe 20, 30 minutes into this conversation through the Spirit earlier this week. But I just want to touch the point concerning the US dollar. All right, because the US dollar is a fiat currency. It's not a just weight. It's not a just balance. And the Lord told us about not doing those type of things, because this is the type of system you create when you do that. All right, as a sidebar, this is Proverbs 20 and 23. It reads, diverse weights are an abomination unto the Lord, and a false balance is not good, man. All right, when you get this in the NLT, it reads, the Lord detests double standards, and he is not pleased by dishonest scales. All right, and this system is set up on dishonest scales concerning the banking system, along with many other things, false doctrines, science falsely so-called. All right, what you find out is that this whole system is a mirage, and what they've painted as liberty and democracy has really been a bait and switch. They sold people on that, and then they robbed them. All right, and this is why people are gonna there's gonna be sedition here. All right, so let's go here really quick through the Spirit, and I'll just start around the 3 minute and 19 mark.
Right now, we're able to finance it because we're the world's reserve currency.
Right.
And when we print more money, which we're doing all the time, the Fed is doing that, we're actually taxing the world. Everybody in the world who holds dollars gets like a 3% transaction fee. I say we're kind of like the credit card at the gas station that gets 3% because you're using that credit card.
Right.
Well, we get 3%, from inflation we cause because the world is using our currency. And we can do that as long as they use our currency. But I think it's going to end at some point. They're going to quit using our dollars as reserve currency. I mean,
So let me, as a sidebar, let me just mention this. What he's saying is that because the US dollar is the world reserve currency, they can afford to have the type of debt that we have in America, because basically everybody's holding dollars, so they're able to export the debt. So because everybody has to use this currency, they can still print more money without immediate repercussions, and they know this, which is why it is still diverse weights and a false balance, because they know that they're robbing other nations of people by having this printing money and inflation. And Esau, what he does is he overcomplicates things to hide the fact that he's stealing from people, man, because that's exactly what this is. And now the nations are beginning to wake up to it. This is why they're creating the BRICS nations. This is why they're creating these organizations to get around this, because what Babylon the Great, which is America, has done is they weaponized the world reserve currency. All right, you saw that with Russia, where they shut down their accounts and basically stole their money. So now the world is waking up to being robbed, because ultimately Esau's God is his belly, man.
I watched your interview with Putin, and one of the things, whether you hate him or not, one of the things he said that is true is when we sanctioned him, before we sanctioned Russia, 70% of their transactions were in US dollars. And after the sanctions, it's less than 20% of their transactions are in US dollars. So what we're doing with all these sanctions, ironically, we're shooting ourselves in the foot every time we sanction a country and say you can't use our currency to have a transaction. We're taking away our ability to charge them 3% for that transaction, because when we print 3% more dollars, we're just taking that money.
And we're also sending a really clear signal, which is the dollar's not safe for you.
Right.
It's the reserve currency because it's a safe haven, because it's a stable country. It's the most stable country in the world, and we're not going to weaponize the dollar because that would be shooting ourselves. But suddenly we are.
And they'll tolerate like 3% because we're not backed by dollars, we're backed by aircraft carriers right now. So they'll sort of tolerate that 3%. But one of the things we recently did in Congress, we passed something called the Repo Act, where we said we're just going to seize all of Russia's sovereign assets in the United States. Well, it turns out a lot of that is treasury debt that they've agreed to buy so that they can hold dollars. And here's the problem with that. When people see that we've seized their money that they gave us in exchange for these treasury notes, then other countries won't want to buy our debt. It's already happening. And the price of a long-term bond that the treasury puts out it's already gone above 4%. It's like over 4.5%. And they don't want to buy them anymore because.
All right, so just as a sidebar through the spirit, what he's talking about with treasury notes is basically countries can buy the debt of America with the guarantee that America will pay them back with interest. So Russia, China, they were picking up treasury bonds, all right, which is basically American debt, with the understanding that they would be paid back with interest. All right, and this shows you that the debt goes from it's everywhere. All right, you can't get around it. And this is why ultimately this system is bound to fall, and the Lord is going to bring the system down, and it's going to be translated into one that is profitable, which is Yahweh Shai. The world tries to make the scriptures out to be some super mythical mystery book, but really it's not. It's dealing with nations and rulership. All right, let's go here. This is Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 4. I start at 3. I start at 2. And the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. And the way the economic system is set up, everybody has to be gathered unto him. All right. When I say him, I'm talking about Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. All right. Everybody's drawn unto him through this system. All right. Habakkuk 2:6 reads, shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. And this is what the nations are beginning to say. That's that taunting proverb. When they create a BRICS organization, when they create their own way of banking and try to get around the dollar, that's them taking up this proverb. A lot of times when you listen to Putin, all right, if you listen to some of the China correspondents, they're talking about this robbery. They're talking about the sanctions and how there are unrighteous dealings dealing with nations of people. Because it's not just like Esau is just oppressing his own people in his own country. He's doing this through this economic system, sanctioning a nation of people. All right, seizing a nation's assets is weaponizing the economy. All right, now you have nations who are beginning to rise up. All right, so when you go into this Hebrew word for thick clay, it's a batyat. All right, a batyat, and it says weight of pledges, heavy debts. All right, something pledged. All right, because those treasury notes that these countries buy, they buy with the expectation that that pledge is going to be paid back with interest, and they're going to make money for purchasing that debt. Now, we know through the spirit that eventually this whole system is going to fall, and they're not going to see the interest. They're not going to be paid back for these debts. And that's what happens with a debt system. You have to pass it around. It's like musical chairs. You pass the debt around until somebody has to hold the bag. All right, and this is beautiful through the spirit, because ultimately the Lord is using this as a means to an end to destroy this system, but also to show the elect why the Lord said what he said concerning just weights and just balances. All right, let's go here. This is Jeremiah 51:7. It says, Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad. All right, because when you look at it, the central banking system is everywhere. All right, and it's to a point where you can't really be involved in global economics without the central bank in some form or fashion, which shows you that the fractional reserve banking system extends outside of just America, all right, in the Western world, because this is how the system is set up. It's set up on debt. And it's an abomination according to the will of the Heavenly Father. And this is why the Lord's going to set up something that is equitable. All right. Let me see. I want to get this clip, Lord willing. Yeah. So I want to just get this clip really quick. I want to see if I could find. Yeah, so it's Jim. This is from Jim Carr on Joe Rogan. So I'm gonna just get a short point on this clip, and Lord willing, this is edifying.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Imagine the research that could go into that with that budget. And you go, look, you're not going to win the war on drugs. You don't even, like, there's prisons, high security, category A prisons, and they've got drugs in them. You can't even keep the drugs out of there. Good luck with the borders.
Yeah.
It strikes me as like you go, just admit you're not going to win that fight.
Right.
Both phenomenal places to play gigs, and they love stand-up comedy. It's just a
Isn't it
wonderful
crazy
place.
that little country was like conquering the world at one point in time?
Sorry, I'm from Great Britain. Hi.
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 Yeah, you guys did too.
We had a great run.
It wasn't bad.
I tell you what, we used to own this.
Sort of.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
It is crazy. It's crazy how empires rise and fall. And that's one of the things that people are wondering currently about America. If we're in the last throes of a dying empire.
Well, I got a hot take on this.
Please.
I don't think they do. So I don't think the Roman Empire fell. I think it became a church. I think the Rome fell, but the Roman Empire became the church. Where's all the money from the Roman Empire?
The Vatican.
In the basement of the Vatican is where it is. Yeah. That's I don't think the
Have
British.
you been?
The Vatican.
Yeah. Whew.
It's incredible.
Bizarre.
It's incredible. It's a city within a city.
The wealth, the sheer wealth in art is overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like St. Peter's Basilica, when I walked in there, my mouth was open the entire time I was there. Like, you just can't believe the amount of craftsmanship, the architecture, the art, the painting.
Well, I mean, if you think about culturally what happened, every song, every painting was about God until 100 years ago. And now every song's about love. I think they're talking about the same thing, but that's me being an old hippie. So Roman Empire became a church. British Empire became a bank.
Ooh.
So we gave our empire back. We said, oh, yeah, sorry. Sorry about that. You can have that back. We gave, Saudi Arabia back and all these other places that we'd sort of were taking the resources. And then they had their own money. And then we went, oh, well, what are you doing with that money? Because we've got this thing called the City of London. I tell you what, it's your money, but we're going to hold it. We'll have it over here. Is that okay? Yeah, fine, great. So we've still got that thing of like, and culturally, I think, America's extraordinary. It's an
So that's the point, all right, which goes into another very edifying point that I want to make through the Spirit, Lord willing, and that is Revelation chapter 16 and 13. And the reason I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. All right, because ultimately, when you deal with the Roman Catholic Church, all right, you're dealing with the false prophet. All right, when you're dealing with London, all right, these are city states. All right, you have London, you have Washington, D.C., you have the Vatican, and these are city states. And from those areas, you have the military, you have the monetary, and then you have the false prophet. All right, so this is the system when you really look at it. All right, and the Lord is highlighting the uncleanliness of this system on every side of it. All right, if you deal with the muscle, all right, the military, all right, it's just violence. It's pure unadulterated violence with no equity, with no righteousness. When you deal with the banking, the monetary system, is theft by big Latin words, by big complicated words and systems. It's theft. And then when you deal with the false prophet, it's a false doctrine. It's a made up imitation of who the Heavenly Father is. And the Lord is showing all of this in these last days through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shah. It's being exposed. All right, let's go here. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and 3. And it reads, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called Yahweh Shema Shai, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things. All right, and now ye know what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time, and he's being revealed now. All right, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let, until he be taken out of the way. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. So now Esau is being exposed, and we're finding out through the Spirit that the system that he set up is corrupt. And the Lord is teaching us a very important lesson. Why just weights and balances are so important. All right, why it's not good to have unjust balances and to deceive people. All right, to corrupt people. All right, let's go here. This is Hosea chapter 12 and 7. And it says, he is a merchant. The balances of deceit are in his hand. He loveth to oppress. And this is who Esau is, man. He loveth to oppress. And he has balances of deceit all across the board. You can't get around it. All right. And this is why the Lord instructed us to not deal like this, not to deal in deception. When Yahushua comes upon the earth, he's not going to deal in deception. He's going to deal in equity. All right, and Lord willing, we'll be able to get that definition. All right, this is also Ezekiel chapter 45, and I'll start at 9. It says, thus saith the Lord power, Yahweh Shema Shai, let it suffice you, O princes of Israel, remove violence and spoil, and execute judgment and justice. Take away your exactions from my people, saith the Lord power. Ye shall have just balances, and a just ephah, and a just bath. All right. So the Lord has always instructed us to deal justly concerning money, concerning transactions, concerning economics, if you will, to deal justly. All right. And fractional reserve banking is not dealing justly. And we're not even talking about the usury. We're just talking about the simple system of fractional reserve banking, being able to house your money somewhere and have them just take 9 of your $10 and do whatever they want to do with it as long as they can make a profit. It's theft by another definition. Fiat currency is theft by another definition. Because if the fiat currency loses value, the only people who remain rich are the ones who have resources. And this is what Esau does in a very roundabout way to steal from people. All right, now make no mistake, we were guilty of this as a nation of people at one point in time, and this is why we got kicked out of our own land. All right, this is Amos chapter 8 and 4. And it reads, hear this, O ye that swallow up the needy, even to make the poor of the land to fail, saying, when will the new moon be gone, that we may sell corn, and the Sabbath that we may set forth wheat, making the ephah small and the shekel great, and falsifying the balances by deceit, that we may buy the poor for silver, and the needy for a pair of shoes, yea, and sell the refuse of the wheat. So this shows you that our people, this is why we got kicked out of the land. All right. A lot of these things that Esau's doing, our people were doing in a roundabout way in the ancient world, basically robbing the poor. All right. And now Esau, who's in power, who's in control, is now doing it. All right. Let's go here. This is Micah chapter 6 and 9. The Lord's voice crieth unto the city, and the man of wisdom shall see thy name. Hear ye the rod, and who hath appointed it? Are there yet the treasures of wickedness in the house of the wicked, and the scant measure that is abominable? Shall I count them pure with the wicked balances, and the bag of deceitful weights? For the rich men thereof are full of violence, and the inhabitants thereof have spoken lies, and their tongue is deceitful in their mouth. Now, understanding the ancient world, when you deal with balances, everything was balanced. The weights, the weight, the gold was weighted. So what wicked ones would do is they would basically manipulate their balances and their scales so that they could basically steal from people. Now, if you fast forward to 2024, it's the same type of theory. It's just a different type of system. And this is why the Lord's going to destroy this place. All right, this is Proverbs 29 and 2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. And everybody's in mourning, man. Because Esau, whose God is his belly, is ruling through greed, all right, and not equity. And he's doing it to his own people at this point. All right, this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 14 and 5. I start at 4. And it reads, he that gathereth by defrauding his own soul, gathereth for others that shall spend his goods riotously. He that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods. All right, and this is why Esau is going to be removed out of power. And the Lord is teaching the elect a very important lesson. Lord, willing we be a part of that number. Why it's important to live in righteousness. Why it's important that the law, statutes, and commandments be implemented in the earth. Because when you don't have that, this is what you get. All right. And Yahweh Shai is coming back to set up proper order. All right. There's Ecclesiasticus 10 and 4. The power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable. And that is Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. All right. This is Psalms 98 and 9. It says, before the Lord, Salaki, let me start at 8. Let the floods clap their hands. Let the hills be joyful together before the Lord. For he cometh to judge the earth. With righteousness shall he judge the world, and the people with equity. All right, now I want to get this word equity, all right, in the etymon. So etym online says equity, early 14th century equity, quality of being equal or fair, impartiality. All right, now I want to jump down to a point that was made in this second paragraph. It says late 14th century from Roman naturalist Ecclesiasticus, the general principles of justice which corrected or supplemented the legal codes. It says governed by benevolence. All right, this current world is not governed by benevolence. It's governed by greed. All right, and when you get this word benevolence, it says the quality of being well-meaning. All right, and that's what Yahushua is going to bring. It doesn't mean everybody's going to be on an equal playing field, but it's going to be based on benevolence. It's not going to be based on trying to rob people for their resources, which is what Esau's doing all across the planet. All right, so I just wanted to go into that through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Lord willing, this was edifying. With that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yahshua Allah, and a sincere salutation to all Yuakim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Aquath, who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. Shalom.